Hey folks, it's Rick here, how you doing? Welcome back to Boulder Canyon here in Farming Simulator 19. We're going to be continuing on with ploughing up this field today. And of course, we aren't entirely sure if the grass is going to need to be ploughed or not. I don't think it does. I don't think ploughing actually makes any difference to the grass whatsoever, which is really good. This is a thing that is really pleasing to us because it does mean that we're not going to have to worry about getting any extra and anything, getting a plough and having to spend money on it, because it's going to save us money, essentially. That's why we're pleased. It's going to save us money, it's going to save us time, and this is all good stuff. Right, so my question for this week is, what do you want me to do next? Do you want me to start getting the gear together for going into arable production? Or would you rather I did a bit more automation with the gathering of the timber first and get ourselves a Ponzi Scorpion? From what we can work out, the very cheapest combine, the smallest combine, is going to cost us around, and you know, the combine plus a sprayer plus the header for the combine, obviously. This is going to be very small scale arable, but we're going to need some storage for it as well. So we've got to have storage here on the map available so that we can sell things in larger quantities, because that's one of the stipulations of having that sell point over there. It's going to cost us around $250,000 to be able to do that. If we save up and we get the Ponzi Scorpion King, though, that one is $440,000. So it is quite a bit more. However, with the arable, it's going to take us a long time to be able to do any arable to earn that back, which means that we would still be hand-cutting a whole load more stuff in order to be able to sort of get up towards arable level, which would be nice. It'd be very cool if we could do that, if we could get up towards being able to do arable stuff. Whereas if we were to get the Ponzi Scorpion, then like we've got the whole the tree harvesting thing is fully automated then. We can cut them down with a machine, and then we can get them over to the mill as well with the machine. And we also have the advantage then of being able to do like multiple lots of timber. If we can, I think there is an update for that auto-load trailer. And if we can get the right update on it, what you can do is you can cut a load of 7-meter logs on the trailer, and then you move so you load 7-meter logs at the front and you load 8-meter logs at the back, and you make an absolute fortune selling all of those together. Like one trailer load, you really do stack it high. I mean, you don't have to. There's no need for you to go and do this. You can just sort of carry on doing it normally. And honestly, I don't think this tractor here would actually cope with quite that much weight. But you know, it could be an option. Maybe we could get a lorry a bit later on, and we could do something like that with it. But yeah, in order to be able to get that option, we would need to have the Ponzi Scorpion, because we can't cut that accurately with a chainsaw. So that is the Ponzi Scorpion, or we can go with arable and start working towards arable, which means then we would be able to start unlocking some of the other animals that are available on the map. We cannot get any other animals other than sheep on the map until we have got arable unlocked, because we're not going to be buying in any feed. That is one of the stipulations that we have on the map, is that we cannot buy in feed or bedding, and if we want animals, we've got to look after them properly, so we've got to have feed and bedding available for them. So yeah, it does mean that if we want to be able to do it, we've got to have arable. So obviously we're gonna need arable at some point, because we're gonna want to be able to have all these animals. The big question is, do you want me to get the arable first, or do you want me to go for the Ponzi Scorpion first? So it's your vote, it's your game. Head into the comment section down below and let us know which one you want and why. And of course, don't forget to actually cast your vote in the top right hand corner. Let's bring that into a halt down there. I'll do... Actually, I think one pass would be sufficient, and then we're going to start just sort of working up and down this field. Up and down, that's actually, we might start working up and down. No, we won't. We'll go along the straight line that we cut over the other side. And we're going to just work our way up and down until such time as we've got this field completely ploughed up. Now, in the future, I'm obviously going to be wanting a bigger tractor and a bigger cultivator so that we can do this faster. And I'm loving the idea of using something like this to allow create fields, because we've got to do this bit by hand, and this is a rather tedious process. But it's more tedious, I find, using a plough to do it. If you've got a small plough and you're doing it, it can take a while. Whereas if we do this first, and then we get hired help with just a standard plough running up and down over it, it's so much easier. You can just leave them to it. You don't have to worry about them in the slightest, and you can go off and do other things. So at some point later on in the future, when we've got hired help and we're able to use them on the map, it's definitely something that I want to be doing. I definitely want to be making the most of using our hired help whenever possible. Most of you know by now that I do love to use hired help for just about everything if I can get away with it, because of how easy it is. I don't like just sitting there doing the same task for ages and ages. Sometimes we do have to. Sometimes we've got very little choice in the matter. Like today. Today is going to be one of those days where we've got very little choice in the matter, and we're going to have to do it like this. But that's fine. We can cope with it. So we'll just keep slowly plodding on with this. It shouldn't actually take all that long. We've done the outside rounds. That's the slowest part. Now we've just got to sort of work up and down. I might actually, just to speed this up a little bit more, I'll move out, and we'll do this in a loop. So you pick that one up like that, so you come down to this end, and then we move over towards the middle, like that. And we put that one down there. And it won't be dead straight. It'll be straight enough. And we'll lower that one down there, and then I'll just press 3. And with the keyboard steering, it defaults into a straight line. Right? The wheels are self-centering, and that's something that I really like. So it's, when using keyboard steering, it's actually quite easy to get a nice straight line on your run. I mean, it does it with a steering wheel as well. You can default it back to dead center if you want to, but it seems to do it better with keyboard steering. I'm not quite sure why. Whether there is a particular reason for that, I'm not sure. And we bring you over to there, and then we can lift you up. What we got to do is run round here. So now we've got a loop that we're running round. Eventually, we will have a little bit of a triangle, because I haven't lined that up quite straight, but it's good enough. And drop you into there. And then we can just keep going, and we'll just follow this one up through. And it's nice that we do have some of these bushes left on the ground. You know, if we go along and we use some of the landscaping tools first, it does get rid of a whole load of the bushes. But a lot of people have asked me if I could not really use very much of the landscaping tools on this map. I wasn't planning on it. I wasn't planning on doing very much in the way of landscaping on this map, because I thought it would actually be better if we didn't. I thought it would be a bit more fun for this particular series if the only landscaping that we do on here is a little bit of leveling if we've got to, like when we've placed an animal pen or something like that, because of the mess that does tend to make, we will do a little bit of leveling around an animal pen, especially if it's on a slight slope. And just to smooth things out a little bit. And we'll also build tracks using it. So I'm not like cultivating in a track like this. We will actually just put the coloured ground down, maybe do a concrete track or something like that. That's the only landscaping I'm planning on doing. I'm not planning to remove great big sections and chunks and stuff like that, because I just don't think it would be... I don't think we should be doing that. Not on this particular series. I think we'll just sort of stick with what we've got, and I don't think it's something that we would be doing. You know, if we had like more money and we were in a more built-up area, then yeah, maybe we would pay somebody to come in and do it, or we'd have better access to temporary tools to go and do that sort of thing. But here is a bit more rough and ready. And so it sort of makes sense that the fields would be a bit more rough and ready as well. So I'm quite happy to sort of keep going with the way things are, and we'll just keep doing it like this. So there we have, you know what I'm doing right now. I'm also going to have a drink while I take this beautiful screenshot. Beautiful screenshot has now been taken. If we go back up this way. See, I don't know if I choose to use this screenshot in the end or not. Because I do this. I'll take the time and I'll make sure I've got a screenshot. And then I'll think, you know what, I want that. Because that bit looks cooler. When I'm going through and I'm editing, I sort of see another little bit of a screen grab on the editor. I think, you know, I'm going to have that instead. And so I do a snapshot of that bit instead of the bit that I actually originally intended. So I never know. This is all a complete mystery. While I'm actually doing the filming, it is a complete and total mystery to me. I only ever find out once everything is all done and dusted. Technically, you find out after me, but sort of you also find out before me, because while I'm saying this to you, I don't know, but you do. It's that weird time travel thing again. I swear sometimes I feel like I'm Doctor Who. Right? I'm sure most other YouTubers feel like this as well. You know, you're busy doing these things, and you talk to people, and you talk to people about things that have already happened but haven't happened yet. Like the screenshot. Right? As far as you're concerned, it's already happened. But as far as I'm concerned, it hasn't happened yet. So I'm effectively talking into the future and talking about the past as a future that has not yet happened. It can really mess with your head. It really can. And I try not to let it, because if you think about it too much, it starts to tie, it can tie you up into knots. All kinds of knots. I was just thinking about this the other day, actually. I've done this once. Only once, and it didn't last very long because we broke the cultivator. But, yeah, the bit where it joined onto the cultivator with the 3-point linkage, a piece snapped off there, and then we didn't repair it for a week or two. But we did eventually finish the field. But, no, we used a little cultivator, and we resurfaced the field, because it was a bit messy, and also there were areas of it that were dug up and been heavily tracked through and stuff like that. So it all looked a mess, and we wanted to level it all out. And we thought, well, just to going over it quickly with the chain harrows is probably not going to do a good enough job, even though the ground was soft. So we went and got a springtime cultivator, and we stuck that in a field, and we was just moving up and down the field with that, and I got like a quarter of the way into it, and it broke. Yeah, it was quite old and rusty, it must be said. The bit where it joined on, there was probably maybe a quarter of the metal was actually any good. The rest of it was already rusted through, so it'd broken from previous use. So it wasn't all my fault. And let me just back that one up there. Actually, I could argue that it wasn't my fault at all, because I was told to do the job, and I was given a machine that wasn't up to the task. So it wasn't my fault, it was the farmer's fault. I mean, he readily admitted that anyway, but, yeah, I'm just saying, you know. But I did do this, and it was actually a lot of fun, because I didn't do it like this. I had a small springtime cultivator, which wouldn't have been much bigger than this one. I was doing it with an old Massey. It wasn't a Massey 35, which is like that one over there is based on. It's a Massey 135. It's like the next model up. But it's very, very, very similar to the Massey 35, which is also very similar to that IMT that we've got over there. The two of them are almost identical. There are a few differences with the 135. This one didn't have a cab. This one was an open one. It may have had a cab at one point in its lifetime, but it certainly didn't have a cab when I was using it. It was awesome, because the field wasn't much bigger than this. Actually, I think it was smaller than this. Like, on the scale of things, where comparing the size of the tractor here to the size of this little field here, I suspect that the field I was working in was smaller than this field here. And it was really, really good fun. Honestly, I had so much fun just working through with this little springtime cultivator. And it was great to get back to it once we eventually got the thing repaired. It was absolutely awesome going back to it and using it in there once more. It's the sort of thing that I would recommend, that if you ever do get a chance, grab it with both hands, because using a little tractor like that to work the ground is something quite unique about it, right? If you working soil on a big field with a big tractor, it's got its own unique feel, and it is good, it is fun, but it does get a bit tedious, and You got this kind of air-conditioned office that you're floating up and down in, and it's great, okay? You get out the cab, you know, you can still smell the soil and all the rest of it, and so on. But when you're working if you're working a huge, great big field with a tiny little tractor, that's something that starts to border on soul-destroying. But when you're working a small field with a small tractor, that is altogether different, because you're not in there. You don't do it long enough to get, like, bored with it. You don't do it anywhere near long enough to get bored with it. And so what you end up is it keeps the job reasonably interesting. It lasts, you know, maybe a couple of hours. Maybe a little bit longer than that even. But there's something about it. There's the feel of it. There's the sound of the tractor sort of roaring away under you, because it does have to work fairly hard to get through the soil. And you've got all the sounds and the smells of it all as well. With an open cab, I mean, yes, you don't really want to be doing this. Well, I personally don't want to do it in the blazing sunshine, because I turn into some sort of beetroot-like creature that it's not pleasant to look at. But it is a lot of fun. It is an experience that I have had, and I really, really enjoyed it. And it's an experience that I would like to have again, and I'm hoping that one day I will have again. If I ever do manage to buy, like, a little bit of land, you know, an acre or two, it's something that I'm hoping that maybe I will be able to participate in once again at some point. Who knows? It may happen, it may not. We don't know at this point. It's just guesswork. But if you get the chance, either, you know, some of you may get the chance on your own property, but some of you may get the chance to go and work for somebody else and do something like that. I strongly recommend it. There is something quite pleasing about working a small... I mean, there's something quite pleasing about working a small field with a small old tractor anyway. And it's not an experience that I dislike. There's something about working the small fields with small tractors that's very enjoyable. But if you get the chance to, like, work a small plough in a field and then go over it with a cultivator, or even just, you know, straight in with a cultivator and work it like that, it's quite... I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it. It just feels such... There's you know, there's certain things you do, there's certain jobs you can do, there's certain tasks you can undertake, and it's very difficult to describe what it is about them exactly, but the sensation of it, the whole overall feeling, the sounds, the sights, the smells of it all, that it all sort of adds together to make an experience that is quite wonderful. And it's difficult to kind of explain what it is about it that is so appealing to anybody that's never done it. But not just anybody that's never done it. I'm also talking about anybody that's... sometimes people will do it and they won't get the same feeling from it as you will. All right, they won't get the same level of enjoyment out of it as you will. And yeah, that's fine. Each their own. Everybody has different things that they really love, and everybody has different things that they're not quite so keen on. And this is definitely got to be one of those things. I think, you know, some people is just not going to appeal to at all. But I do know plenty of people that it is quite an enjoyable sort of experience. It's just not something that you tend to get very much anymore, though. Because of the way farming is, most farming is done on a much bigger scale. And even smaller farms, it's still done on a bigger scale. Whereas 30 years ago, when I was a small boy, a big farm was 100 acres. 100 to 200 acres, 200 acres was a very big farm. Certainly in the area that I was growing up. And you could still make a living on a farm of less than 50 acres. And I know this because my parents had a farm that was just under 50 acres. They did go and rent some more land on top of that after a while, but to start with, they had a farm that was less than 50 acres. So it is entirely possible, or it was entirely possible, to make a living on that. You can't do that anymore, right? You cannot make a living just farming on less than 50 acres. You've got to diversify one way or another. And there are 100 different ways to diversify. Some of them don't take you very far away from agriculture at all. but to just farm, say, milking cows and producing sheep, you're not going to do it on less than 50 acres. And there's just, you know, what's happened in this world. Maybe I'm talking about the UK, right? Certainly other parts of the world, that's going to be completely different. There's going to be plenty of people that are making a living on 10 acres elsewhere in the world, and making a very good living as well. But it's not necessarily going to be everywhere. I'm just going to bring this one down here. The rest of that little triangle there, we will do that all in one go. I'll bring this one back up to there, like that. And away we go, down through here. Our next task is, well, we got two tasks that we want to do. We want to put some fertilizer on his field first, I'm thinking. That's going to be the first thing that we put on here. And then once we've put a little bit of fertilizer onto this field, then we want to get a seed drill, and we want to drill in a little bit of grass seed. So we're going to need to be able to buy seed, we're going to need to be able to buy fertilizer, we're going to need to be able to buy a fertilizer... No, we've got the fertilizer spinner, sorry. But we are going to need to buy the seed drill. So this is all stuff that we've got on our to-do list, our to-buy list. We will eventually get them. Let's bring that on round to there. And there we go. But yet these days, a small farm, you know, 150 acres, that's a substantial farm. Or it certainly used to be. But these days, 150 acres is considered a small farm. Even in, like, the area that I live, it's still considered a relatively small farm. Because everything seems to be going big, the scale of things is just increasing. And, you know, that is just, that's the way that things is moving. So that's just what we've got to do. You know, people adapt and overcome, and then that's what they deal with. But I think that it kind of means that there are certain things that some people will miss out on. And one of those things is working a little small field with a little small tractor and actually have purpose to it. And don't get me wrong, there's still people that get to have this. Right, there's a whole new breed of people that are now coming into the world, and those are the ones that own small holdings. And the small holding, there are very few people that actually make a living running a small holding. There are people who become self-sufficient on a small holding, and they are able to do it, but the majority of people who own a small holding, and I would personally, I class a small holding as anything that is 35 acres or less. Usually, though, a small holding, certainly in the UK, is anywhere from 1 up to 5 acres. That's normally what you'd sort of expect as total land for a small holding, but you do get bigger ones. You know, I know people with small holding of 20 acres. You know, 20 acres is not a bad size for a small holding, but it's not something that you're going to earn a full-time living from. Right, that's kind of a supplement, and a lot of these people, it's just a hobby. It is just a hobby farm. It's not actually intended to make any money, and many of them don't, you know, barely even break even on it. Right, that's all they want, is just to break even on it, and then they're happy, because it's not intended as a business. It's intended as a hobby. That's it. It's just a hobby. It's something for fun. It's something that they do for pure, 100% unadulterated enjoyment. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it's those people who are getting these small holdings and they're sort of jumping into farming that way. Many of those will actually get to experience this little thing that I'm trying to describe with the small tractors and the small machinery and stuff like that. So it is still there to be had. It's just, it seems to be that the majority of, I would say, the Western world, what I would class as the Western world, it's a kind of experience that is more of a hobby experience these days than an actual working experience. And I don't know if that influences the overall sort of feel of it, because when you're working a farm, you know, you've got purpose, that there is actual there is a real purpose to it, and you're not just going through the motions for fun. You're going through the motions because you need to, because it's, you know, it's essential to the whole running of your farm, maintaining of your business and everything else. Whereas if you're running a small holding, it's more doing this because I want to. You know, I'm doing this for fun, and it doesn't actually make any difference to me. But I do know people that find things less enjoyable when they're only doing it for fun rather than doing it for a job. Now that may seem a bit bizarre, but I mean, I say it doesn't make any difference to me. It doesn't make much difference to me when it comes to agriculture and agricultural practices, because a lot of what I've seen is actually on a small holding that my parents used to have when I was a teenager. So for us, it was a kind of for fun type thing. You know, if we were able to produce lamb on our small holding at roughly the same overall cost that it would cost us to go to the butcher and buy the lamb after it had all been processed and everything, or if we could save just a little bit of money on it, then, you know, that felt we'd done well, right? That was kind of the purpose of it. We wanted to try and at least produce our own food at roughly the cost of what it would cost elsewhere. And sometimes we were able to do it quite a bit cheaper than we were able to get elsewhere. Sometimes it would be roughly the same cost. So I've experienced life like that, and to me that makes no difference. But I do know what people talk about when they say, oh yeah, but it's not quite the same. When you're not doing it for a living, when you're only doing it for fun, it's not quite so enjoyable. And that may seem like a really backwards kind of thing to say, but I do know exactly what that means because of playing computer games. Computer games is my hobby, and now it's my job, right? And though this may seem a little bizarre, I actually get more enjoyment out of playing a lot of the games that I play when I'm playing them on video than I do when I'm actually playing them for myself. Now, I'm just going to go to there, and I'm going to turn Allow Create Fields off so that we don't accidentally plow up anything else. We've done it! We've ploughed our field. We've actually ploughed our first field. All cultivated up. It's fantastic. I think we can congratulate ourselves for that. We've done really well there. I'm very pleased with this. So yes, I actually have games that I sort of think, oh, do I want to play this today? No, if I'm fancying a bit of a gaming session when I'm not working, I fancy playing, I don't know. I don't know if I want to play this. Because I'm not recording it. I'm not doing it for work. And I genuinely did not expect this. But I have plenty of times where I get more enjoyment playing the game when I'm playing it on video for work than I do just if I was playing it on my own and not having to worry about getting the right camera angles and making sure that I was explaining. Oh, of course, yeah, it doesn't let you do that. Hang on, if I do that, can I unfold it from up here? Yeah, you got to do it like that, unfortunately, with that cultivator. That's not been repaired on it. I thought that might have been patched, but it hasn't. So yeah, it's kind of a rather bizarre type situation where I get more enjoyment from doing it for work than I do for my own personal pleasure. And so I've been told this by other people with things, you know, different aspects of farming and stuff like that. And it does sound very kind of backwards. It really does. I can understand it sounding a bit backwards, but the fact of the matter is that does actually happen. It is genuinely like that, right? You get these things that you're doing, and it's like, well, actually, it's not quite as much fun because I'm not doing it for work. It's less fun because I'm just doing it for personal enjoyment, and I'm not doing it for any other reason. And I can understand that. So for some people, it's not quite as good, and then for other people who live and run a small holding, it is. It's all about just doing it for the enjoyment of doing it, for being able to say that you can do it. But that's, you know, everybody has different approaches and different reasons for doing things, and that's it's just something that I was thinking about. I started doing this yesterday, and I was just sort of thinking about some of the stuff that I've done previously. And sort of thought, well, you know, I used to do that for pure enjoyment. But I do know people that don't like doing the very same things for enjoyment. They love doing it for a job, but if it's not paid, it's kind of takes the fun out of it. And that might It does seem really strange, but I do understand. I didn't used to understand that. It seemed a bit of an odd thing to me. But since I've become a YouTuber, I do actually now understand that. I'll sit down and I'll look at a game and like, I don't really want to do this. And then I'll sit down for the same game to go and do a recording session. And I'm like, yeah, I'm actually really enjoying this. This is a lot of fun. I'm really glad I'm doing this. And yeah, it is really strange. It's really bizarre that this does happen. But anyway, I've kind of run out of time for today's episode, as you may have imagined. We've done what we wanted to do. We've done what we set out to do. And our next little task is to get a bit of money. We've about 6 grand in the hole, which is not going to take us very much to get out of. And we need to get the fertilizer down. We've got the seed already. We've got that one. But the fertilizer, that's 8,500. So we've got to get that one. So we're probably going to be looking at 2 tanks, because we've also got to get a seed drill. And the seed drill seeder, I've actually picked up the mod that I was talking about. It's this one. See, I was thinking, you know, a 4-meter one, that'd be ideal. Well, that's 20 grand. What's this one down here? This one's 13. 7,000 difference. Actually, that might be worth the extra price tag. 830 litres on that one. That one's 1,000 litres. Okay, it's 1,000 litres on that one. This one here is 600. That one's 830. You can put this one on with a cultivator if you want to. It does combine. So it's less, but you do have a 4-meter width on it, which I think is better. That one does 9 miles an hour. That one does 9 miles an hour. If we can get it, we'll go with that one. I'd like to get that one if we can. If we can afford it, we'll go with that one. I mean, that one there is way out, and there's no point in us getting that one compared to that one down there, right? It's 1,500 more. But that one there, I think, might be worth the upgrade. Yeah, an extra meter width. That being said, this one down here, 1,000 litres on it. You know, I know it's only 3 meters, but if we're able to get some hired help going along and helping that later on, we'd be very glad of it. And, you know, the hired help would be good on this one, but we're going to be refilling it a little bit more often. Something for me to think about. I'm hoping that we'll be ready to get a little bit of this in our next episode, but we may not actually be ready for that. So my question this week is, what big task do you want me to go for next? Do you want me to start accumulating all the cash and stuff that we're going to want to be able to start doing arable crops? Or would you rather I saved up the money and we earned ourselves just by doing the normal job? So we'll be doing a bit more forestry. We've got our sheep to start earning money, and we're going to be planting the grass down there and getting that going so that we can then start selling more silage bales and stuff. But yeah, do you want me to get the Ponzi Scorpion, or do you want me to get arable cropping going next? So it's your votes, it's your game. Head into the comment section down below, let us know which one you want and why, and of course don't forget to actually cast your vote in the top right hand corner. That is all I've got time for today, so if you've enjoyed the episode, then please head down below and give us a like, and if you really enjoyed it, then please tell your friends all about me, get them to come and watch as well. That would be awesome. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. This is Frithgar. Goodbye, and see you later.